Traditional Chinese painting has a rich history as an enduring art form and has developed continuously over a period more than 6,000 years. I'm Grace Trafton of The Better Part. Stay tuned and watch a demonstration of this beautiful art form. Our guest, Shirley Lynn Kinoshita, is an artist, teacher, and former Fine Arts Commissioner in Cupertino. Shirley says that her goal is to blend and bring appreciation for the best of Western and Eastern art. Welcome, Shirley.
Thank you so much.
I know that you're a member of the Sumi-e Society of America. What is Sumi-e and how did it originate?
Sumi-e is a Japanese word for ink painting, specifically black ink painting, and it is known by other names in other countries. The art form originated in China. I am a teaching member of the Sumi-e Society of America, and I have a magazine here that that has a quarterly, it's a quarterly issue, and it shows the examples of artwork. There are many chapters of the Sumi-e Society in the United States. Interestingly, none in California. So
I wonder why.
nobody wants to bother starting it. And I had thought about it, but I already founded 2 other groups. I'm not willing to start another one at this time.
I see. So what attracted you to Asian brush painting?
Actually, I think it just was a natural. I like watercolors, and watercolors, the same paints can be used in Chinese or Sumi-e painting. And I only took 1 class at the Y when I was in high school in Hawaii, where I was born and raised. That was the only one I ever found. So when I had the opportunity in California to take classes, I jumped on it because, you know, that it's not that common to find a teacher of that art form.
Oh, I see.
Here is fairly common.
Now, do Sumi-e and Chinese brush painting differ at all?
They're basically the same philosophical and methods are the same. The supplies are the same. The themes are the same. So there's a book that I have on display here called the Mustard Seed Garden Manual of Painting, and that is actually the classic work. It was published, I think, about 600 years ago. It's translated into modern times in English. So, but those techniques show pretty much the same. You'll find the same techniques, the same themes in many Eastern Asian countries.
How is it different from Western art?
Well, Western art, actually both forms are considered fine arts. And Western art, the training is a little different. There are schools of different kinds of painting, and they support each other. The same exists in the Far East as well, but it has a different, it went in different directions. The painting is actually intimately connected with calligraphy in Asian painting, and it's also very strongly connected with the scholar class in China, where it began. And there's something called the 3 perfections: painting, calligraphy, and poetry. If you can master those 3, you're the ultimate gentleman scholar.
Oh, is that right?
And some women also did that. Not many, but some did, of the more upper classes.
Tell us about the variety of themes that Asian artists like to paint.
Well, the themes that are very traditional, almost every student learns these, are based on 4 themes. And the 4 themes are the 4 seasons. The first one that one usually learns is bamboo, which represents summer, followed by the fall, which is chrysanthemum, followed by the plum blossom or cherry blossom in the winter, and in the spring it's the orchid. And those each progressively teach a different stroke, which is based on calligraphy, again, on writing.
So calligraphy came first, and this
Well, the
grew
same
out of...
supplies. You use the same, basically the same materials, except that you added color to painting, which is not very common in calligraphy.
And traditionally, what type of materials and tools were used to create the paintings?
The first is probably this. It's called, everything has names. They're called the four treasures. One is the brush, and these can be made out of white goat hair or some material that is a brown or reddish, usually weasel or fox. I don't know exactly.
Weasel or fox?
Well, I have some that have said it's made of bear hair and boar hair, so they're kind of exotic. They're all natural. They're real animal fur.
But are they mostly exotic animals?
No. Rabbit is used, goats. The weasel and the wolf hair and horse hair is also fairly... Horsehair is considered more expensive and, well, I'll explain that another time. The other of the four treasures is the ink stick. This is an example of an ink stick. And the ink stone, which you use to grind the ink stick with a little bit of water. If you notice, this has a little dip in the basin. So you put the water here and you bring it up. What people say is, this is the ocean and this is the beach. You pull the water up and you grind the ink stone. This may take you anywhere. Some teachers say you have to do 100 circular strokes or 20 minutes. So
20 minutes.
So most artists now don't like to spend that much time grinding ink. And if you're with a master teacher, often the students have to grind the ink for this master. So you can buy ink. And of course, there's the paper. So these are the treasures. The fourth is the paper. The four gentlemen, they're called the four seasons.
The four gentlemen.
Yeah, they're called the four gentlemen. This is a very sexist cultural thing, you know. As the scholars were all supposed to be male, but there were a few females who were quite highly educated in Chinese culture.
And were they just as well respected as the male?
Probably not.
Scholars? So, have there been many changes in modern day?
Actually, surprisingly, when you look at the supplies, none of it is electronic, right? And it's been used for 3 millennia. That's amazing that this form is still as vibrant as it is, that it still has appeal. So especially I think someone who's Asian or likes the Asian types of arts, it's kind of fun to learn this art form, which is so ancient and yet still very, it's still engaging.
Still very creative.
Well, there are very traditional subject matter. What I painted a couple of weeks ago is the traditional flower and bird painting, which is a very common topic. It's not the same as the themes, but there are several genres. They're called genres, like landscape painting, shan shui, which is mountain water, literally, is a form of painting bird, flower, animals, and not too often people. Usually it's some noble official or the emperor that's been painted.
And what can you tell us about the old masters and new masters?
Actually, I don't really study that. Even though I was at one time a history major, I don't really study the masters that much, partly because traditionally paintings are copied. That's how you learned. You learned from a master painting. And so there's so many copies of the original, it's pretty hard to tell one from the other because they were very superb artists. I tend to concentrate on the more modern ones. A very favorite of mine is Chow Shao An, And this book, Masterworks by Chow Shao An, he was in his 90s and still painting. Can you imagine that? There's a picture of him in here. Came from the San Francisco Asian Art Museum. There he is here. He looks in his 90s, but he was painting superbly up until the end of his life. And this book is actually out of print now and it's pretty hard to get. But what I wanted to show that he actually painted landscapes in California. This is, I think it's called China Camp in Carmel, a landscape that he did. So he did actually traditional techniques using modern subjects. So, you know, he's one of my favorite artists, and I would consider him more of the almost modern, but his tradition goes all the way back to the beginning. He used all traditional techniques.
Do you do other forms of art in addition to Sumi-e?
I used to exhibit and teach watercolors because that's a natural, and many, many years ago I also taught crafts to children. I taught painting dinosaurs, cartooning, clay making, and I taught really, really young 2 to 4 year olds crafts.
Nice.
Of course, they were crying away, but that's to be expected.
So did you teach all age groups?
I have taught some pretty elderly. I have one gentleman, Carl, I won't use his last name. He has a PhD in some chemistry and I mean, he had a distinguished career, but he's a really good artist, and I've taught him. I've taught a doctor of Chinese medicine, her name's Teresa. She's blonde, blue-eyed, and very lovely-looking woman, but she has a doctor's degree in traditional Chinese medicine.
Oh, is that right? That's kind of unusual, isn't it?
Yeah, I have had one student Vima, who is originally from India. She's now a UC Berkeley student. And she was a really good artist, too. She started with me at about age 15. So,
do you think artistic talent is inborn, or can you learn it?
No, you can learn it. It's like playing the piano or a violin. You learn and you get better by practicing. You don't get better by just looking at the art. Although they say if you can envision yourself as a wonderful artist, it's almost as good as actually doing the practice. But you can't get away from practice.
Now, what do you find most satisfying about teaching art?
I kind of like the joy that students find in accomplishing something. The good thing about Asian brush painting or Sumi-e is you see results really quickly.
Is that right? More quickly than Western type of art?
Well, you know, in oil painting, you can labor over for years.
Years, yeah.
You can't do that. Once you put the ink to the paper, it's going to be there. There are paintings in museums that are 500-600 years old, made just with ink. They're still as vibrant. They haven't faded at all.
Is it because of the quality of the ink?
I think it's that kind of ink. It's very permanent. So I tell my students, don't drop any on your clothes because you're going to have it forever.
Right.
It's going to last longer than you.
Well, without further ado, why don't we watch you give us a demonstration?
All right. Hello, I'm doing a demonstration on Sumi-e painting. That's the Japanese word for black ink painting. Now the Chinese use another term. It's called Guohua, which means national painting. Very few people use it. And for example, since actually Asian painting has gone beyond the borders of China. So it's more like international painting style now. So in Japan, Malaysia, China, it is the primary art form that people enjoy. I'm going to start by using the basic tools, the brush, the ink, the paper. What's not counted is the water, which is essential. And I put a little bit of ink from my bottle. Traditionally, ink painting used to be done with a little stone, an ink stone, and a ink stick, and it would be ground until it turned as black as this ink, which is bottled ink. Most people are too lazy to do that. But some teachers still insist that their students use that technique. Now in Western painting, we have a palette that is used, and so we also have one for mixing paints in Asian or Sumi-e painting. So the Japanese prefer ink to color. The Chinese like a little more color. So basically the Japanese believe that there are all the colors you need are in black ink. So they'll start with a very light gray, which you can barely see. So if they can get 5 shades of gray, not 50 shades of gray, but 5, until you get the blackest of colors. So I'm mixing grays here, and I'm going to take out some of the excess and dip it in black again. So I'm painting today the first of the 4 themes of brush painting. The first one being the bamboo. Now bamboo is all straight lines. I start with the trunk. Gray tipped with black, right? You saw that? So we're going to do the trunk. Now that doesn't look like much. So we'll add the little nose between the bamboo. Maybe we'll do another stalk here. Hold on, I think I'll just add some more paint here and do another one. And we put in the nodes so you can sort of see what looks like a trunk. See that white? That's not a mistake. It's called flying white. It's actually a technique. Flying white that is embedded in the stroke. The word stroke is what you call each time you make a mark on the page. This is rice paper. It's usually made, this is a machine quality, but there are many handmade papers, and they can be very expensive or very inexpensive. This is very inexpensive paper. So I'm going to put the little side branches here. And if you ever look at a bamboo, they have little alternate. You'll find them, they're alternately, the side branches alternately shoot out from the nodes. So we're going to now put some, I should say something about bamboo as the first theme. It's all straight lines. So far it's straight, pretty much straight lines. And it actually represents what they call the perfect gentleman, because bamboo in a storm, it bends but it doesn't break, and it's perfectly straight, has fortitude and integrity. So those are the qualities of a gentleman. So that's what we strive for if we want to be like the bamboo. So I have a napkin here. This tells me how gray I have this. So I'm going to put some gray bamboo leaves. And I put a few more here. So with bamboo leaves, you can start with a few, up to about 6 in a grouping. There's all kinds of rules in Sumi-e painting. So we have the beginning of the bamboo. Gosh darn it, I'm almost done, so I'll have to do another painting. So I'm going to dip it now in very dark black. Remember what I said? Everything here is just ink. It's the different shades that makes the 3-dimensional quality. So I now add the black ink over the grays so you can have something that looks like it's forward and backwards. I mean, the darker bamboo is showing you something that's in front, and gosh, I think I'm done. Like I said, it doesn't take long to do bamboo. So, you know, I had a teacher who said, you will never master any topic unless you do it 100 times. If you do this in less than 5 minutes, you can do that. You can do this painting. So this is the first one. I have taught children as young as 3 years old to do Sumi-e painting. So it can't be too hard for some of you older folks, right? So when you think you're done, let's say I think it's done. So I have not added color, but you can also do bamboo in colors. Usually it's green or yellow. So the perfect, the cultural icon for fine arts is the three perfections. Art is just one of them. It's from this art form that calligraphy started before this. So that's the second art form. The third is poetry. So usually when you see a painting like this, you'll see writing on the side. Most often it's poetry. And oftentimes a poet, a famous poet's writing will be on the side here, or the artist himself will write something that's, or memorialize something. I'm going to finish this off by putting in one word. And the word is, where shall I put it? I'll put it right here because there's a big space. Does that look sort of like a bamboo? That's the word for bamboo. So I think I needed a much heavier brush than I used here. So you're not supposed to do this, by the way, but bamboo. So you have a bamboo. So you finish off by putting in your name. In my case, being American, I could use English or I could use Chinese. So I do have a Chinese name, which I will write here. By the way, my calligraphy is really bad, but I do know my Chinese name, which is Lam Lin Buk in Cantonese and Lin Len Bei in Lin Lan Bi in Mandarin. So there's there's about 400 dialects in China. So there's Mandarin is the official. But most Chinese, the early Chinese who came here in the 19th century were from Canton region, which is near the ocean. And so they could easily leave if they wanted to find better opportunities. And many of them do speak Cantonese. So my Cantonese happens to be really bad. So the final touch is to use your little red seal, which you tap on this kind of a pasty looking red. And usually you have to have some kind of, you notice I use this felt behind. If you use a very hard surface, you won't be able to put the, once in a while, I put it upside down. But if it's in English, oh, that's not very good, but needed more. So here it is in Chinese, and this is when it gets really tricky, which is the right side up. Usually it's the side where the animal that's carved is facing you. So we'll put it right there. So that's a finished painting. Now, I don't know how long it took, but I'm prepared to do another painting. And the second painting is of the rooster. You start with color. Color, we're going to use color. Red. So this is going to take more time just because I'm squeezing out paint. So here's my red. And because this is a very simple painting, I have to clean my brush. So now we're using a new color. What you can do is use a separate brush and start by painting with your red. So this is a clean brush with no ink, but you can use the same brush for the whole painting if you want to. Just clean your brush with cold water. So you just put in the coxcomb, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh, that's kind of a light red. Maybe make it a little bit coxcomb. And what is this called, a wattle? Is that a wattle? There it is. We got most of it. Now all we have to do is dip it in black ink. Put in the little, make sure your brush is pointed tip, because now you need to put in a point here and the little eye and the body. Nice magnificent tail. And the breast. Feet. Here you have it, a 1-minute chicken.
The better part is produced by volunteers, and absolutely no experience is required to join. Come check us out. Just leave a message at the Cupertino Senior Center. I hope you've enjoyed seeing this beautiful art form today. I know I have. Our thanks to our guest, Shirley Kinoshita, for the great demonstration. Thank you for being with us, and remember to watch us on YouTube and Roku. See you next time.